Tennessee Titans fans, Eddie George has entered the chat. He has some comments on what he thinks the Tennessee Titans should do with the first pick in the 2025 NFL draft. And when legends from your organization speak, I do think it is important to listen. So let's hear what Eddie George had to say. This is when he was on, this is from Stripe Sports. I don't know what podcast this is. If you know, please put it in the chat. Here we
We've
go.
talked about the Titans. They have the first overall pick. If you were in that position, what do they do?
Well, you got to look at currently the roster. Are you a quarterback away from going to the Super Bowl? And the answer to me is no. So,
Okay, so right off the bat, yes, he's correct. The answer to that question is no. The Titans are not a quarterback away. However, usually, if your team is at the top of the draft, whether that's number 1, 2, 3, whatever, usually if you're up that high, you are not a quarterback away. You need a lot of help, or else you would not be picking that high. The fact is, if the Titans believe in Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, you need to take them. You don't need to not take a quarterback just because you have other needs. If you're sold, if you are sold, listen, everybody made fun of the Atlanta Falcons for picking Michael Penix at number 8 last year. And I get why, because they had already paid Kirk Cousins all that money. But I actually like what their owner and GM had to say about it to defend it. They said, if you see a quarterback that you believe in, that you think could be your guy in the future, you don't pass on them. There is no excuse to pass. So I still think that's true. If the Titans get to April and they believe in Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, and they believe that guy is it, then you don't need to not take a guy just because you have other needs.
you look at the pool of quarterbacks. Is there a quarterback this year that's special enough to get you over the top? The for sure pick for me is Abdul Carter. He is a problem off the edge. You're going to affect the passing game, with him both as a rusher and defending the run.
I mean, listen, I'm not going to argue with that either. And Eddie kind of said that. You look at this quarterback draft class, there is some skepticism about both Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. There's not the same amount of talent in this quarterback class as, say, last year. So I get what he's saying. There is a good chance that you could get to this draft and not be sold on Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. That could happen too. And I've also said this, if you're not sold on either one of them, do not draft either one of them. If you're not sold on them, don't draft them. Because we do have other needs. That's what it all boils down to. If you're not sold, please draft somebody else at another position. If you are sold, you better draft him. And Abdul Carter is absolutely, in a lot of people's mind, he's either the best player in this draft. He is at worst the second best player in this draft. And the Titans desperately need, and as I've said, after watching the Eagles in the Super Bowl, you cannot deny how important it is to have a pass rush, and Abdul Carter could be your guy to help.
You can anchor around, and they need a difference maker on the defensive line. They're really big in the middle, but nobody on the outside to really get an impact. And you figure if you can get more possessions for your offense, you don't have to sling it all over the field. You can allow your quarterback to be a game manager.
Why is there a picture of Sam Darnold on my screen right now? I don't like the term game manager. Because I don't think game managers really accomplish much in the NFL. And before you hit me with Jalen Hurts is a game manager, I think Jalen Hurts is better than that. Okay, I think Jalen Hurts is better than just being labeled a game manager. Jalen Hurts is better than that. Now, would he be labeled as good as Mahomes, Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Jayden Daniels? Probably not. But to me, Jalen Hurts is absolutely a top 10 quarterback. He belongs there after what he's done in Philadelphia. He's a winner. So I don't agree with Eddie's summarization that we need a game manager, but I do agree with the fact when you have a defense who is getting the offense off the field, that means your offense is spending more time on the field and you have a little more freedom. What's been happening with the Titans, that's a very good point by Eddie, by the way, because what's been happening with the Titans over the last couple of years, and this past year especially, they're having to immediately throw everything they have against the wall. They haven't had the freedom to just let the game come to them and see what happens. They get behind, they turn the ball over a bunch, and things start going bad, and then they have to start just trying everything they can think of to try to climb back into a game. When if your defense is getting stops and stops and stops and stops, and the Titans' defense wasn't good enough last year, but when your defense is getting stops, your offense has more of a chance to feel the game out over the course of 4 quarters. So that is a good point.
One scenario is, hey, let's look at getting a guy in free agency, the quarterback position, maybe a Sam Darnold. Let's build up our interior offensive line. Let's build up our defensive line. Defense wins championships. Let's keep it real.
We've talked about the Titans.
To a degree, yes. Defense does win championships. I'm not going to argue with that because there's Pat McAfee roasting the Titans in the draft that year. I'm not going to argue that defense wins championships because it's hard to argue that after the Eagles did what they did. They certainly can win championships still. I don't get, because I've seen this from numerous podcasts and media outlets and things like that, of people just absolutely saying Sam Darnold is the best option for the Tennessee Titans. It's not just Eddie. There have been numerous people who are like, the Titans should target Sam Darnold. Would Sam Darnold be an upgrade from what we've had? Sure he would. Is he enough of an upgrade? No. And also, I don't want to pay Sam Darnold for a multi-year deal, 2 to 3 year deal, that's going to be overpaid. I understand he might not make as much as he would have if he didn't play so badly the last 2 games for Minnesota, but it's still, to me, going to be overpaying. I just don't know why so many people are eager to see Sam Darnold play for the Tennessee Titans, other than the fact, and this wouldn't apply to Eddie, but other than the fact that he's kind of boring to the media and the Titans are boring, so that's a match made in boring heaven for a lot of people. I don't know. But I agree with most of what Eddie said. Defense is important. Edge rush especially, very important. The Titans had nothing from the edge. They need a pass rush. Doesn't everybody, but Tennessee especially. You got to start somewhere. That's the key for Tennessee. You got to start somewhere, and they got to choose where that's going to be. If you think Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders is it, draft them. If you don't, draft Abdul Carter, trade back, whatever you're going to do. Tighten up, everybody.